The widespread prescription of statins, cholesterol-lowering drugs such as atorvastatin, Lipitor, simvastatin, and rosuvastatin, has become one of the most emblematic examples of how pharmaceutical incentives can distort clinical judgment and reshape public health priorities. Originally developed to reduce cardiovascular risk in individuals with clear markers of disease or very high cholesterol, statins were quickly embraced as a kind of universal preventive medicine. But as prescriptions expanded to include millions of low-risk individuals, the scientific basis for such sweeping use began to falter, while profits soared. This overprescription did not directly kill or maim, but it represents a powerful case of misaligned incentives, exaggerated benefit, and understated risk, all in the service of financial gain. Statins emerged in the 1980s and 1990s as a breakthrough in the prevention of heart attacks and strokes among people with existing cardiovascular disease. The mechanism was clear. By lowering LDL cholesterol, often termed bad cholesterol, statins could reduce the accumulation of arterial plaque. In high-risk patients, especially those who already had heart disease or multiple risk factors, the evidence of benefit was strong and consistent. However, it wasn't long before statins were being marketed, and eventually prescribed, to a much broader swath of the population, including individuals with no history of heart disease, no symptoms, and only moderately elevated cholesterol levels. This expansion was not entirely driven by new science. In many cases, it was propelled by strategic framing of data, aggressive marketing, and the redefinition of what constituted risk. Pharmaceutical companies played a significant role in shaping clinical guidelines through sponsored research, expert panels, and continuing medical education programs. By subtly influencing the thresholds for what counted as high cholesterol or elevated cardiovascular risk, they expanded the addressable market for their products dramatically. Lipitor alone, manufactured by Pfizer, would go on to become one of the best-selling drugs in history, generating more than $13 billion in annual sales at its peak. What gets lost in the noise of mass prescription is a more sober interpretation of the actual data. For low-risk individuals, those without existing cardiovascular disease or diabetes, the absolute benefit of statin use is often marginal. Many studies show that the number needed to treat, NNT, to prevent a single heart attack or stroke in such populations can range in the hundreds, and the reduction in overall mortality is negligible or non-existent. In essence, most people in these groups are unlikely to gain any meaningful extension of life or avoidance of major illness from taking statins, yet they are still exposed to the risks and side effects of the drugs. These side effects, while often downplayed, can include muscle pain and weakness, increased risk of diabetes, cognitive complaints, and potential liver damage. Though usually not life-threatening, they can significantly diminish quality of life, especially when the drugs offer little to no real benefit to the individual taking them. Nevertheless, the narrative promoted to the public often frames statins as universally beneficial, almost akin to a daily vitamin, safe, necessary, and protective. That oversimplification serves a commercial purpose more than a scientific one. Another concerning dimension of statin overprescription is how it reflects a broader trend in medicine, favoring pharmaceutical management of risk factors over addressing root causes like diet, exercise, stress, and socioeconomic conditions. Instead of tackling the systemic lifestyle and environmental contributors to heart disease, statins allow a form of medical complacency. Patients are told their cholesterol is under control with a pill, even if their broader cardiovascular health is far from ideal. This undermines more holistic approaches and reinforces a pharmaceutical solution as the default, regardless of individual need. The true cost of statin overuse isn't just the billions spent on pills that may offer marginal or no benefit. It's also the distortion of medical priorities, the entrenchment of pill-based prevention as public policy, and the erosion of informed consent. Many patients who take statins are never clearly told about the modest benefit or the real risks. They assume, based on the confidence of their doctor and the sheer ubiquity of the drugs, that statins are unquestionably in their best interest. This assumption is often the result of medical culture shaped by decades of pharmaceutical marketing, guideline manipulation, and an industry that thrives not by curing disease, but by creating lifelong customers. In the final analysis, the overprescription of statins is a textbook example of how the profit motive can warp the application of otherwise valuable science. The drugs themselves are not fraudulent, they are genuinely useful in the right context. But when clinical nuance is sacrificed for commercial reach, and when millions of people are medicated without clear benefit, it becomes impossible to separate healthcare from market exploitation. And while no dramatic scandal marked this shift, no sudden death toll or explosive lawsuit, the slow, quiet erosion of medical integrity may be even more dangerous in the long run.